Dear guest, Minister, thank you for giving me the opportunity of presenting my result here today. So my project has been focusing on the Central Highland, which is, for those that are not already familiar with the area, the area which is shown on this map here. The main focus of my project was to look into tourism management in this area and into the nature conservation. I wanted to investigate the views from the public and especially from the domestic users. There has been a lot of research already on the views from foreign visitors, and I really wanted to focus on what the Icelandic public thinks. I wanted to compare also a little bit the views between different types of users and look into the differences and the common points that there would be, especially if we compare their managerial and recreational preferences. How did I do that? I've been using two online surveys. One that was a nationwide survey that I will present to you in more detail during this presentation, and another open survey that was targeting recreational and environmental groups, which I am not going to present today. For that, you will have to read my thesis. So this nationwide survey has been carried out by the Social Science Institute of the University of Iceland, and they have been sending it by email to some members from their panel, and it has been done just before the summer, and I have received about 46% response rate, which is acceptable for this type of survey. A way to increase the response rate would have been to, with more funding, to do a follow-up phone survey, but the funding didn't allow that. I had between 14 and 27 questions in the survey, and the reason for that is that there are a lot of follow-up questions. So depending on the answers, the people would get more or less questions. They were distributed between the three main areas that you can find. I really wanted to collect some data on the recreational aspect of the highland. I wanted to know what the people are doing there, where they are doing there, and when, and so on. I really wanted also to collect some views on their management preferences, with a strong emphasis on road development, accommodation development, and also regarding visitor limitation. Those are three issues that are highly discussed in Iceland. I really wanted to collect some data on that. And most importantly, I wanted to collect some data on nature conservations and the views of the public regarding those. And this is, I didn't want to look at those things as separated issues. I want to look at the relations between those three main fields to kind of put back all those views and attitudes into their context and keep a holistic approach of the topic. Today, since I have a very short time, I'm going to talk very fast, don't worry. I will only focus on the views on nature conservation, and especially on this item, do you support or oppose the proposed national park? Now, this has been investigated by previously. There has been three estimations of the level of support for the park, but those were only single items. There was just one question within the nationwide survey, and there was nothing behind it. We didn't know why they would support it or not. So this survey is different in the way that it's the first in-depth analysis. And each time those surveys were estimating the level of support between 55 and 60%, and the opposition to the park between 15 and 25%. What I found with my research was that I can see that some of you are already calculating. Don't worry, I did it for you. So you have the support, which is shown in green. You can see the strong support on the right chart. And it is about 60% versus 10% of opposition and 22% that are undecided. But this is only the proportion of my responses. It is not representing the population. To represent the population, we need to calibrate this data based on the demographic variables that we have in the sample. So by giving more weight to the group that are underrepresented, we can have a more accurate estimation. And this is what has been done for the three previous measurements as well. And since I'm not really a pure statistician either, I asked the Social Science Institute to do it for me. And this is the result that we have got, 63% of support versus 10% of opposition. If you want to be really precise, the numbers are, because here they are just rounded, it is 62.6% of support versus 9.8% of opposition and 27.7% of undecided opinions. And we can see from this slide that there are differences, if you look especially on the lower part, between the views from the capital areas and the views from the countryside, but it is not enough to just look at the number, and this doesn't tell us much unless we look into the reasons for supporting or opposing the national park. In my questionnaire, what I've been doing is that I've been sending a follow-up question for those who supported the park to ask them about the advantages. So in this one, you can look in the upper right corner. There's just the green part. It's supposed to be highlighted. That shows that there are only 408 members that received that question. I asked them about what they conceived as the main advantages for the national park, and I really think that in terms of management, the one that matters is the notion of totality on the second item, to protect the highland as a whole, but also the number 4 and 5th, which are related to tourism management. So this is something that is important for the people that are supporting the park. Now, if we ask the 68 people that were rather against or strongly against the national park, it is very interesting what we can observe here. The first item is a reduction of possibilities for public outdoor recreation, which might seem surprising or contradictory for our foreign guest here, but this is basically the outcome of several decades of public discussion, debate, or even conflict in relation with the management of recreation activities. I'm talking mostly about motorized activities, hunting and fishing. The second item is also really interesting, but needs also to be put back in its context. It's about it's a governance issue this time. And you need to know, to understand this one, that we only have 2 governing levels in Iceland. We only have the state and the municipality and nothing in between. So just keep this in the back of your head. And the third one is related to the operational cost, which I will let you think about. But it is true that the national park needs appropriate funding if we want it to meet the expectations from the public. Now, taking back the sample as a whole, I wanted to ask them about what should be the main purpose of national parks in Iceland. And again, we have 3 really interesting items. The first one is conservation. That's, of course, the main purpose of protecting an area. The second one is management, to manage tourism. And the third one is education, in relation with educating tourists to help them to have more appropriate behaviors. So this is very interesting as well. Last but not least, I wanted to ask them what was the best way to improve the organization or management of protected areas in Iceland. And here we have something very interesting, is that the thing that are prominent are direct measures that you will see on the field. Increased ranger activities, surveillance, and monitoring, but also stricter rules about travel behaviors and basically enforcing them. But the second main point that I wanted to draw your attention on is the importance of cooperation and consultation. And that is essential if we want to make it work. So overall, all of this, what does it tell us about the highland? It tells us, firstly, that the Icelandic public is really, really interested about the highland. There's a really strong interest. There's a strong support as well, but it is not sufficient to only look at this simple yes and no question. We really need to understand the whole set of expectation that lies behind it. It involves that there is a lot of conditional support as well. And this is not only regarding the issues that I've been presenting on these slides, but also regarding other management issues related to visitor limitation, road development, and increased accommodations, for instances. So the message to take home is that consultation and cooperations are key factors that really need to be addressed, and not only regarding economic actors, but also all other stakeholders, recreational, environmental, municipal, local government, the general public, everyone. I didn't manage to do all of that, unfortunately, because it's only a master project, but I have been doing a parallel open survey, which I sent to all the Icelandic recreational and environmental groups, which is quite a lot, 600. Yeah, wow. And so, but if you want to read about that, you will have to come to my thesis defense in a few months, or to just look at my paper afterwards. I would like to thank you for your attention, and I would like also to thank the Social Science Institute, and especially IVAR, for the implementation of the survey. I would like to thank the Nature Conservation Fund, without which support the nationwide survey would not have been possible. It is quite costly. And I would like to thank both of my supervisors here today, somewhere, yeah. for their guidance throughout this nice journey. Last but not least, I know that this is really something that you care about, and your opinion matters, and it matters even more to me, and I really want to understand as much as I can about this issue. So if you feel that there's something that I should know, I really want you to contact me, and there's my email, it's really easy to remember, it's very short, and just contact me and I will be really pleased to have a coffee with you and to discuss this. Thank you for your attention.